Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast channel. Martino Puccio alongside me, Nick Diani of the Kicks Picks podcast. Back at it again, was here for the Serie A betting preview. Back from Milan Lazio, who play tomorrow. No Sant'Angelo today with this, but still wanted to get a preview out. Nick, first of all, how you doing, and what do you think of the season so far?
We're doing okay. I think you and I, after 6 match days, are looking pretty smart. I don't know if people, who caught the betting preview, who didn't, the season preview.
Yes.
We have Milan sitting in, first, second place position. We have Lazio outside of the top 4. I think those are two things that we pretty accurately called. So feeling good about that, but not feeling so great about my team. I think, I don't think they were as good as everybody was expecting them to be, but I certainly didn't expect them playing this poorly. So a little bit of a bittersweet start.
Yeah, so absence on Milinkovic-Savic on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are Lazio feeling in right now?
9, at least.
Really?
8, 9, have to be. I think the midfield is struggling to cope. The big frustration there is, and I know we signed some players late in the window, but they cannot seem to find a starting midfield 3. And the frustrating part is it's about fitness. Everything you hear in the news, it's, Rovella's not ready.
Who could have seen this coming, right, with Sarri?
Right. And that, like, as a professional football team, now 6 weeks into the season, how are we the only team in the entire league that has to, I have to hear this same news week in and week out?
Inter's catching up to you guys now. I don't know if you saw that.
Sure, but you know what? They have 3 starters on their bench that they can go to, right?
It's a little bit different, right?
Yeah. But it's frustrating, man. We look at the first 2 weeks of the year. We had Lecce and Genoa. If I'm not, I don't even know. It feels like years ago that it was, a month ago at this point. How do you not get motivated for 2 games against
Lecce
relegation teams? And they're playing great. That's not a
no. Of course. But they had your number last year too. Like it just felt like that lack of intensity almost every single time I watch you guys. And I went back on it last week because you had me bite on it because I really they always burn me every time, even if they were great last year. Lazio always burned me on the money line. This is kind of what we were talking about as well in the preseason was late players assigned to the club, as you mentioned, later on in the window where we knew, okay, regardless of fitness, Sarri's integration is always very difficult. And getting that midfield in there, I think the one caveat as well is Milinkovic-Savic feels like he wins you more points with some of the matches you drop so far. That's what it always felt like, and that's kind of something we discussed. Immobile, I mean, the regression is obvious, and it's not to slight him, but if you don't have the proper rotation there, this guy's going to struggle. It's a more physical, it's a faster Serie A than what we've seen in recent years as well. There's teams that are more than likely to play, I don't know, not scared, I would think, like sides like Lecce is a perfect example. Genoa are fearless, as we've seen yesterday. That make you feel a little bit better. But
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, overall, is this panic button time already? Because the schedule hasn't been daunting, like you mentioned. This is one of the more bigger matches. They played Juve, obviously that didn't go well, but yeah, this one right here, another tough one on the road.
Yeah, I'm ready to hit it because we knew the first 2 months of the season were going to be absolutely, tough. Just you had 4 very winnable matches, and you have 3 or 4 difficult matches. And
we didn't even get into the Champions League.
we fumbled the easy match, the quote unquote. There's no easy matches in Serie A. We know that, right? We've seen it week in, week out, year in, year out. But the fact that this team couldn't get motivated for Lecce or Genoa weeks 1 and weeks 2, when you knew you had Napoli and Juve right after that, you knew you had Milan in 6 or 7 weeks. That's the part that I can't get past. These are professionals. They've been under Sarri for 3 years now. This is his 3rd year. He hasn't moved the program forward. Yeah, they finished 2nd last year. That's great.
Yeah.
They always are going to finish in that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spot. I don't think they're in any danger of dropping out of that with the caliber of players they have and the seasons they've had over the past 10 years. There's nothing that shows me that this team is ready to take the next step, and that's what makes me panic. We could talk about Sarri. People love him. People will defend him to the death. I cannot get there because
this
team doesn't show me.
Do you want me to get into October just yet? Because October into basically The next international, well, sorry, in 2 international breaks. If you just want me to go through the schedule real quick, and why you think this. So it's Milan, then Celtic in the Champions League, then Atalanta, not easy. Sassuolo, we know what they do against big sides. Then back again, then it was a break in between Atalanta and Sassuolo, then Feyenoord in the Champions League, then Fiorentina, Bologna, as we know, not a pushover. Then you go and face Feyenoord again, and then you have the Rome Derby, and then you're there to the international break. With the rotations, and it's not like Sarri hasn't had movement in the market, because we know, Sarri's got to get his guys. He needs specific players catered to his system. He's gotten that. He's done a poor job of integrating them, and they're also not shining. Why am I drawing a blank on the midfielder? Oh my goodness, that you guys signed last summer, I believe. Not this past one.
Bostic?
Not Bostic. Oh my god. It's escaping me right now. I'll go and look it up on your team sheet. But overall, that's a heavy schedule coming up. And after the rough start, like what do you hope to salvage from this upcoming stretch? Then we'll get into this match.
You mentioned it. I mean, we're in 12th place now. What's the hope after that run of games? Is it to get into 7th or 8th? Is that possible? I mean,
no.
We've been okay against Fiorentina. We've actually been okay against you guys. We'll obviously get into that, but
Jekyll and Hyde, I would say. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, Atalanta's I don't know. There's no wins you can count on in that stretch of games. It's not like you can circle a game and say, okay, we need 3 points here. We're going to get it. Is it possible in any of these games? Of course, but man, are they going to need to find some exceptional run of form that they haven't found yet?
That's kind of the scary part, because we go into tomorrow's match, and if there's a team that actually has had good form, I know everybody, it's so funny to me, because we talk about difficult schedules and starts to the season, and we saw the beatdown that Inter gave Milan, but 5 of 6, they're victories. They're tied for first. They're rotating very well. There's not many injuries. It was just a weird incident with Magnan. Pioli's finally gotten that integration right that I've been banging and screaming about for I don't know how long, for Milan to finally take that approach. Rotated very well ahead of 2 big matches, this one on Saturday, and then obviously Dortmund midweek. Your kind of thoughts on Milan so far, and because you mentioned it a little bit earlier, we kind of look good. I texted you yesterday, plus 500 ticket ain't looking too bad. And I think I just updated the odds on Twitter. I got to pull them up, but you can go for it. Your thoughts on Milan so far, from an outsider's perspective, because I've been happy with what I've seen. What do you think?
Yeah, quote unquote outsider, because you mentioned, right, we have them to win the league. So I'm as much as of an insider as anybody, but no, they've been outstanding. They've been fun to watch, which everybody loves, right? But they're picking up 3 points every which way along the way. I think they've integrated their new players exceptionally well. The depth up front that we spoke about is just shining. Everybody is playing a part. Everybody's contributing. They're creating a ton of chances every single match. And, I've watched them pretty much week in and week out. The Newcastle game stands out to me in the Champions League.
It was unlucky, but after the Derby defeat, that's one of those things that was compounded by those feelings.
That's a game where if you replay that game 100 times, Milan scores 3 goals. 99 out of 100. It was just a perfect storm. But the fact that they're generating this offense, that they're holding the ball, that it's not just pass it to Leao and hope for the best. And they're really not even getting great contributions from Giroud yet. He's looked okay, but
they were mostly penalties. He rested most of the he got subbed off in the match against Verona, but again, 3 goals without Leao, and they brought him on afterwards too. Even if it wasn't that type of match where they needed him, just to see Milan up a couple of goals and that man comes on the pitch, that kind of is the shift that we're talking about from last season to this.
Yeah, they haven't missed a beat. They've looked great, and Magnan is, it's got to be the best goalkeeper in the league. I don't think that's really up for debate at this point.
Which is also whenever he plays, missed the past 2 matches, was already back in training prior with the Cagliari, but to be safe, they have him back for this one. Again, they're at home. That was the match we did beat you guys in last year. It was a morning match. Benacer scored. Leao came off injured. Milan still saw that through. That's kind of when I know you personally were off on the Lazio and Saudi thing. And by the way, Marcos Antonio was the midfielder I was thinking of. That was one of those players you thought would have been fully integrated. He's obviously been loaned out. That's why I was looking at the squad sheet. I'm like, where did he go again? And then there you go. But again, yeah, for Milan, we'll see how this gets integrated with these expected 11s with this. So we'll kind of jump into Milan's. Pulisic is tabbed to start. So we've kind of seen this rotation with Chukwueze. We've seen Pulisic play well. He started at left wing earlier in this week. Got an assist, whether or not that was just because Loftus-Cheek scored a banger with that. He was still, I thought, people weren't giving him credit on that first goal, which to me is absurd. If you send a cross into the middle of the area and it forces the goalkeeper to make an error, that's a good job by the offensive player.
Definitely.
I don't know how you can't do that. It's the same concept of drawing a defender into fouling you in basketball when you're going towards the basket. When you're going towards goal and you're causing chaos, that means you're doing a good thing. And we see that versatility from Pulisic as well. So that's just a huge factor. A guy like Noah Okafor probably isn't going to start in a game like this against Lazio. They want a more experienced player, even though Okafor is. Just to have that type of pressing off the bench for Milan is completely different and dynamic. But the biggest X factor in all of this, and what I've said so far, I have a video that's coming out later, but Yassine Adli, he's the X factor in all of this. There's obviously no Krunic with this. There's no Benacer, where they're playing one of the better midfields in Serie A, even if they're not fully playing like that. On paper, Lazio still have that talent. Ultimately, I think it comes down to this and his start. If he doesn't make clear errors, he only really made one mistake and it led to goal. He's ultimately the difference in this match tomorrow, I think. And through the right side. I think through the right side, if Milan are able to push with Loftus-Cheek and Pulisic, we know Lazio can stop Rafael Leao most of the time. If he's going to have sort of this freedom here, and again, this is kind of the third big match of Milan's to start which is, again, really kind of the impressive part if they come out with a win like this, because if they get 6 to 7 wins and they face Lazio, Inter, and Roma so far, I'm feeling really good about it. You're feeling good about the ticket. So what are you kind of most fearing out of everything I kind of just mentioned, or something that you think Lazio can attack that's a weakness? And I think Calabria coming back as well at right back.
Yeah, I think the strength of Lazio is going to have to be on that right side. The really only constant so far this year has been Luis Alberto. He's looked great. That's not a surprise, right? We knew he would have to pick up the slack a little bit with SMS leaving. But the other important thing is Zaccagni's looked much better the last 2 or 3 games. He got off the year to a terrible start. I don't think he had a shot on target through like the first 3 or 4 games. So having him and Alberto working that excuse me, if I said right, left-hand side is gonna
left hand. Yeah, I got what you mean.
Excuse me. Got excited. That's really gonna need to be the way they dictate play. The midfield is still a little bit of a mystery. I think, we're maybe fortunate that you have some guys out, but which Lazio midfielder are we gonna see? We've seen Cataldi feature most of the year. He's been okay. Vecino looked good the last game. He probably has warranted another start. He did score a goal.
That's one of those names of players. Like if he's on here, it's like,
I don't love that, but he's no stranger to playing against Milan. So I guess that's a positive. Rovella got his first start last week, and I thought he looked really good.
Okay,
but Guendouzi is also hopefully
I
available.
thought he's looked the best out of this
Definitely, but he hasn't gotten 90, I don't believe. He's either come off the bench or he's been subbed off early.
Brother.
So, yeah, I don't know what to make of this midfield, and we're going to have to at least push the midfield battle to have a chance in this game. So
Daichi Kamada, we've always loved the angles in America in the NFL of revenge games. Daichi Kamada close to signing with Milan. Obviously, the whole shakeup within the front office and executives didn't see him go there. Looked good against Napoli. Kind of big footing since. Impact to be made soon, or this just really the whole Lazio rotation?
Yeah, I don't know if he has Sadi's trust. I mean, I think he was forced into the starting lineup early on due to fitness of other players and thinking that he was maybe the most proven or most ready to
Yeah.
step in. Um, I haven't been impressed, quite honestly, and I know
Okay.
he's better than what
You're
he.
just to say this to fans. Nick is a little bit more harsh than other fans. I think you're fair personally, but just at times we could just want to
Yeah,
throw out
but
the
no, it
disclaimer.
it goes
You're
back to
right.
the original question you asked me. At what
True.
point do we level up our expectations? Right? Or am I okay with finishing in sixth place every year? Then he's been fine. He's a
Coming
great
off the
player.
best placement since you won the league title 20
Right.
years ago, it's fair to
So
say that. Yeah,
that's kind of where I come from when I judge the team or judge these players.
I agree.
I think he's been okay. He has one goal so far. It was a great goal. I forget which game it was in.
It was
Uh,
against Napoli, I'm pretty
okay.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. So I think it was the winner in that one. So that's great. But he hasn't looked all that outside of that game. I think he's made some mistakes. I think he's still trying to learn a new league and learn a new coach and new tactics. Probably playing in a position he hasn't really featured in the past, but
Yeah.
he's got to get up to speed pretty quickly for us to go through
There's
this
already been an
schedule.
international break. Him being
Right.
away with the national team probably hurt that. It's just really interesting. So we can get into the odds right now if you want to, because this is your bread and butter. Obviously, the
Sure.
Kicks and Picks pod. You guys have gotten off to a good start to the year. I'm taking the usual hiatus after a little bit. I'm more of a, I guess you could say, sporadic better these days, given my situation. So betting angles here. Milan home side, obviously minus 145 in the money line. That's just, well, I hate it on the triple money. That's just like the most disgusting number that you could have, in my opinion, especially with so many different games. Plus 260 on the draw. I don't remember the last time that these two sides drew. I think
Yeah.
that's been one of the things that it's either one wins or loses. There haven't been that. I can't recall the last time.
Right.
Um, it might have been that Teo Hernandez bullet header of the year. Inter won the derby, or he got the winner that time. Either way, this one's usually Jekyll or Hyde. One of the sides dominate usually, but in recent years, it's been more so Milan. Outside of that drubbing you guys gave us at the Olimpico, but then you that was during Milan's worst stretch in years as well. It's not even to take away from what Lazio was doing. They obviously finished second, but we saw a little bit more what Milan were capable of towards the end of the season. How you feeling right now? Because you guys come off this midweek match against Torino where you got a good result. Milan also got their good result, but they were the ones able to rest players, and now they're back at home. Lazio don't have the greatest record at the San Siro, especially against Milan. I think because I was doing a betting show at the time for Sports Grid, and we were doing it with Gio Cozzolino. And at the time, I was so down on Milan because Lazio didn't win a game at San Siro. I think you remember this one. Could have been 2017, 2018, where Lazio was on fire, and I was just like, I don't care what the history says. Lazio is going to go in and win that game. That ended up being one of the few matches that Lazio have won at San Siro in a very long time. I'm talking a couple of decades. You kind of see some more of the same here with Milan kind of controlling the match and seeing this one out, or do you think Lazio finally step up in a big? Because again, you guys still have that never say die attitude. I know Milinkovic Savic isn't there. The Provedel goal was just
Awesome.
incredible. That was
Yep.
that's in my opinion, it's going to be hard to top in the Champions League this year for moments, but how you feeling with this? Because we still don't know if Romagnoli's 100% with this. He fractured his nose, I believe. So our guy is injured for that, and I say that for all fan bases involved in this one. But yeah, betting angle, too much juice on Milan. Lazio plus 380 is kind of a big one. Or would you kind of head towards the direction if you liked Lazio, draw no bet or something like that? What do you think?
Yeah, so it's such a this game is like a mind fuck, right? It's that minus 145. It's like right on the edge of where you want to take a team, right? If they were minus 120, minus 130,
That's it. And
in your
that's
head,
why I was so anti
yeah,
Lazio
yeah,
last week. I was like, I don't want to do it, but
you're
you trust
saying,
them. Yeah.
hey, minus 120, minus 130, Milan's an automatic bet. Listen, they're massive favorites for a reason. They are head and shoulders a better team right now. Their form has been outstanding. They're at home. I think these odds are fair.
Okay.
This almost turns into like a must-win game for Lazio. I think if you are looking at betting Lazio, you have to take them plus half a goal or double chance, depending on how your book
Yeah.
calls it. That is currently plus 105. So you can still get plus money, and if the game does end in a draw, you actually turn that into a winning bet. I think if you believe in Lazio, that's the winning play. Plus 380 is juicy, but they have to prove it to me. They're not yet worthy of a bet week in and week out. They haven't shown it. They've burned me twice this year. I don't either. It's going to be it's going to take a spectacular effort, and you mentioned it, right? They play better against the big teams. We've been okay against you guys over the past few years.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of a must win when you look at the schedule that's ahead.
And I have a little bit of an update with the Romagnoli stuff. So it doesn't look like he's projected to get into this lineup. They're kind of saying like this nose surgery that he had to kind of go through. Again, it's a quick turnaround. We're talking about a midweek game into a Saturday noon game, Eastern Standard Time. If he doesn't play, then to me, again, I think you hop on it now then if you're a Milan guy.
These odds are going to shift. They'll be minus 150, minus 160 by game time.
So total, talk to me here. We talked about it prior to. I really do like over 2.5. We can go through some of the stuff. We see a lot of goals in these matchups between the two sides here. It's rarely will you see sort of this 1-0, 1-1 type of match, as we mentioned. It's almost even money with the 2.5. Is that something that you like as well, moving towards this? I think that's probably the only way if I take Milan money line is if I actually parlay it with the total. The 140 number is really only something I like if you're a juggernaut team, right? If that makes sense. Like if you're a Man City on a minus 140, then I'm cool with that. Bayern, same thing. Well, Bayern in Bundesliga, not everywhere else. But yeah, it's just I don't feel comfortable with any Serie A team these days at that.
That's the best. If you're talking about betting, that is the absolute greatest line. Clip that, retweet it for the rest of the year. That's the best advice you can give out to anybody, because there's not one team that's consistent from week to week, and it's a short turnaround time. It's really, really tough.
I believe this is the only midweek Serie A game for a while. That's what people were saying. I haven't checked it. Yeah, which is insane, but it would benefit a lot of teams. But yeah,
I mean, we have 7 teams in Europe for the first time.
Calcio's back, but total 2.5. Talk to me. You like it?
Yeah, I like it. I think I expected this to be in the minus 120, minus 130 range. The fact that you can get it around even money, minus 105 currently on MGM, on DraftKings, I think that's great. My view for a game like this is always you will need 2 goals to win. I don't think teams score 1 goal and win in this fixture or a fixture like this.
These are not sides that like to sit back either.
Exactly. So I think 2.5, absolutely playable. I think both teams to score at minus 110, equally playable. Wouldn't shock me to see Lazio get a goal. I think Milan getting a goal is a given. So
a result in both of those bets are good. A result in both to score is plus 270 for Milan. It's 850 with Lazio.
So that's how you turn that minus 145 into,
Oh, and so thankfully, this is kind of where it gets interesting. Felipe Anderson, plus 600 on an assist. Whoa. I think when you look at numbers like this, Luis Alberto, who we're talking about, I think this is the guy that we think X factor for Lazio in this match. I don't like saying strikers are X factors, because that's
no shit.
That's any game. That's every game, right? Luis Alberto in this one, plus 450. Florenzi getting minutes. This is a funnier market, in my opinion. Guendouzi, plus 1,100 with it. There's certain things like that. If we could see where Teo Hernandez plus 490 as well, stuff like that, man. I think the anytime assist market for this match is probably the best prop market.
Definitely.
Because if we go to goal scorers, is how I am. I think anytime goal scorers is nice, but I think they're starting to catch up a little bit.
Here's where I'll say you could find something like it's a bomb. I'm not saying to bet it. I'm not saying I'm personally going to bet it, but if you're looking for an anytime goal scorer and you think Lazio is going to get a goal, Lazio to score a penalty is plus 650. I think that's a really interesting number.
Immobile is automatic, man.
Yeah, and they've gotten penalties, I want to say, in like 3 of 6 games so far. I mean, this is a
and Milan are prone
top
to
head-to-head match.
Errors. Yeah,
that's an interesting number to me.
Yeah, it is for sure. So moving away from the betting stuff.
Let me give you 2.
Go. Sorry.
Just 2 I'm looking at, guys. Zaccagni to have 1 shot on target is plus 120. I think, as I mentioned, he's been a lot better. This number was negative for most of the first 5 games, so to get plus money, it's a Kanye to have a shot. I think that's pretty good, provided he starts. Wait for the lineups, make sure that he's starting. And Teo Hernandez to get a card plus 180, I think, is solid in this one as well. That's a number you see usually.
That would have been great for Alexis Salamakers versus Sadia in this one.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, got a double yellow for arguing.
Sure did.
Yesterday or there goes that option that Bologna could have to pick that up. But yeah, I like this.
Those are the other two.
I really like the Sakanya one. Sakanya one just registering a shot. But yeah, predictions now. I know we kind of talked about it there, but this is just the overall thing. For me with Lazio, it kind of really depends upon this starting 11. Don't love or trust your defense in this one. I think if Ravella gets a start, it's big. But if he's kind of been, this is the kind of weird issue here for me, is that if he's not tipped to start, I get it because he's played minutes midweek, like you mentioned with that start. I kind of just don't see the way Sarri approaches this match that makes it in favor of Lazio. I think if it was a week-to-week type of match, he has more preparation. It's better. Again, Champions League is coming up this week again, too. What did Lazio weigh as a more important factor? I think he cared more about the Champions League, to be quite honest with you. If you're away to San Siro, you're kind of off to this sluggish start. You're probably going to drop points. I think if I'm you guys, a draw is incredible.
Yes.
A win is obviously always incredible as well, but I think this is going to go in favor of Milan. Dare I say this can go to a 3-1 type of game for them. I really do kind of see those opportunities happening, but they're very Jekyll and Hyde with finishing. But Drew getting proper rest. We'll see if that's a major factor for him with this. Because it was kind of funny, like the Cagliari match, the way it was going against a low block, sending in crosses would have been perfect for Giroud, but he wasn't in that one. I think it's going to be like a 3-1, 2-1 type of win for Milan. I think this one's always going to be tough, but it's really funny in Lazio-Milan matches. You could tell what's going to go down and who's going to win within the first 15, 20 minutes. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but it feels like almost every single time you're like, okay, this team's got it. That team's got it. I think one of the rare instances of where Milan came back was the year they won the Scudetto. Either Milinkovic scored it or he definitely assisted to Immobile when you guys scored first, and then Tonali got the winner. That, to me, is like, I think kind of how it goes. So I think that's ultimately what ends up happening. I think Leao in this picture, he dominates Lazio. He dominates the Roman clubs really well. I think he turns it on here because Pulisic and Loftus-Cheek have been playing very well. It's going to open up a lot more for Leao. And Leao, relatively rested. He's playing very well. He's scoring a lot more off to one of his better starts, despite what some stupid newspapers say. I think Milan's going to win this one.
I agree. I'd hate to talk down on my team, but I think you've pretty much nailed it, man.
Hey, you benefit in multiple ways from this, though, so it's not like
this feels like a 2-1 game to me, 2 or 3-1 game. I think that's exactly what I was going to say. It's going to take the perfect game plan from Lazio. It's going to take mistakes from Milan. They're going to need to have one of those games where they have that 65%, 15 shots, and just can't get that second or third goal or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I said on my show earlier this week, getting a draw will feel like 3 points for Lazio, and you just said that. So
I don't blame you guys. Yeah,
we're exactly in sync with that line of thinking. Getting a point out of this is big. I hope they can do it, but I can't see Milan dropping this one in the form that they're in.
Yeah. Okay. To wrap up quickly, because I just want to mention this for the Scudetto odds. Just because it's 6 matches in, we've seen a good amount of each team so far. I think we get I think 6 matches in is it's a
good sample size.
We're a third of the way through the first half of the season. It's the best way to put it. So to me, I think this is going to be a Milan derby for the title. I texted you this yesterday, I think. If not, it was this morning. Napoli maybe climb back into it. There's still that old kind of Napoli stink to them in the dressing room and the drama. This is a super talented team, but there's no Spalletti. To me, that matters. I don't care what they did against Udinese. They should be doing that at home.
Right.
Okay? Udinese could be respectable at times, but they've also had some moving parts as well. This isn't really the Udinese, I don't think, from the past couple seasons that we'll see this season. I think Napoli is still the third kind of team there. Juve, way too inconsistent for 1 week, one match a week. They already, like Vlahovic, has slight injury issues. To me, that's a cause for concern. That's also something that has Allegri's handprints all over it, in my opinion. I had the guy manage my team for the longest time. All right. So like I know how he is. I kind of Are you worried about the Arnautovic injury with Inter's way in how they rotate those forwards? Because now it's going to depend a lot upon Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah. That's why I'm worried about it. And not that I think he's that much of a step up over Alexis. I think that just Alexis is who he is at this point in time. He's what, 34, 35 years old.
34, 35, smaller type of guy too.
He's not really a true forward, true striker. So to rely on him for a lot of minutes or to be that impact guy coming off the bench, I don't think that's what Inter had planned, coming into this year. I certainly don't think they expected Thuram to be as good as he has been. I think
the finishing, no. The whole thing against him was the finishing, and he scores a banger in the derby.
Yeah,
so
he's been exceptional. I mean, he's really helped take that team to the next level in terms of goal scoring, just by everything he provides in and around the box. So he's just a massive, massive presence. But Lautaro's got to get it going. He had 2 good weeks to start off the year. He's kind of
international break hits.
Yeah. So that would be a little more worrying than somebody like Alexis. I think Alexis could come in. He could feature against the bottom 10 side still and be serviceable, be okay.
Exactly.
But Arnautovic starts on a lot of teams, whether you like him or not. So the fact that Inter had him coming off of the bench, I mean, that was a pretty great X factor. And now he's out for what, a few months, they're saying?
Yeah, a few months for that. The thing to me is, like, when we were playing devil's advocate during the betting preview, and we were always like, and this is something I always talk about even when I'm on Kicks and Picks, it's like, okay, you always have to play devil's advocate when you bet, in my opinion, because you have to look at all that, because it's the same thing for fantasy football, that kind of thing. So like fantasy football, for example, like you take a couple of risks. And I'm talking about like running backs, you're thin at like one position. One thing can backfire on you, and next thing you know, you're in a hole in terms of losses. This is the kind of concern for Inter where Lautaro is capable of not scoring for a while. They don't have someone as reliable as Lukaku. Thuram, notorious for being inconsistent as a finisher. That's multiple inconsistent finishers. You're a little bit older. Fratesi is hurt already. So we didn't even mention they have to play Mkhitaryan at more minutes. And when he does play well. That stuff adds up. We haven't ever really seen Inter, and we know how Simone Inzaghi loves to rotate. We never kind of seen Inter deal with an injury crisis. Slightly a little bit last year, but I think that applied to a lot of teams because of the World Cup. Yeah. This is different. How do Inter handle this? Their group in the Champions League did not look that great against Sociedad. They haven't looked that great in recent matches. Is it the case of that they just beat up on Milan and they're a matchup nightmare for them, and they're maybe not as incredible against other? I still think they're the favorite. Yep. I think we both agree on that. Yep. They deserve to be.
Yes.
But is there something that signals this isn't necessarily an Inter super team, but they are a favorite? I think there's a difference between the two, if that makes sense.
They're somewhere in between. They're most certainly the favorite. I don't think they're a super team. They're somewhere in between. Listen, this is, again, a team that made the Champions League final last year. I don't give a shit who you had to get through to get there. They made it. They looked good. You can make the argument they outplayed City in that game. The thing that Inter does well, the two things I think they do well. Number one, they get goal contributions from a lot of places. So, of course, listen, any team that's going to dominate week in, week out, year in, year out is getting goals from their forwards. But Inter seem to find goals when they need them through midfielders, through wingers, through set pieces.
Incredible, yeah.
You have to give them their credit there. I think, man, I lost my second train of thought. I'm sorry, I got so wrapped up in that answer.
Just them as like as a favorite, or just not to win it at that point, because that was the positive angle. So what's kind of the negative that would like kind of take you away from Inter at that point?
Yeah, it's going to be, can they get over the hump with Inzaghi? I mean, I think he's a good manager, but Now we're looking
He's
year
he's kind of
3.
got he's Sarri-esque in a way. He's Sarri-esque in the way he rotates. It's just sometimes it's just really fun. I think last year was
No.
I don't attack Inter like that. I think I'm a very fair person when it comes to this. It was genuinely hilarious to see him sub a player out 30 minutes into the first half on a yellow card. Like, to me, that was just always very funny because you're like, okay, you're very intelligent. You know what you're doing. We try not to second guess you, but why? Why are you doing that? You need your points. Inter sucked in Serie A last year. Let's call a spade a spade. You lose double-digit matches. If it wasn't for the Champions League run, could have been big, serious questions about Inzaghi returning. It just makes you think. We'll see how it ages over time. In reality, it's got to be Thuram and Lautaro to carry them over these heavy fixtures here. If you could, it's never a good time to pick up an injury for a player like Arnautovic. But you could argue if there was ever a time that he could not get hurt, it's now with the condensed schedules with all the Champions League group stage matches. Because again, it's just
so wait.
Yeah,
I'm going to play devil's advocate. So I think the second point, I've remembered my second point where I was trying to talk in favor of Inter is if you look at the great teams over the course of the last 10 years, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Liverpool even, teams find ways to get results when they don't look that good. And Inter has done, with the exception of Sassuolo last week, they've done that through 6 games. They've done that in the Champions League. The result, being a draw in that case.
Exactly.
They haven't played their best games, but they're scoring in every single match. They're always in a game. They're never out of a game, right? Where we've had teams of our teams, we've watched Napoli, we've watched Juve, Roma, whoever.
I mean, it was Milan last week. Yeah.
Right. So they're never out of a game. And to me, that's the mark of a really good or great team. And I think Inter is taking steps to be there, whether they win the league or not, which I think they very well could.
Yeah.
That's something that I think they have to be given credit for that.
Yeah. I think with it's just sort of like riding this wave of multiple fixtures where you're thin in certain areas.
Sure.
Because again, the schedule isn't too insane. Benfica midweek is really difficult. Don't get me wrong with that. Very fascinating. That probably ultimately determines. That one should be at San Siro. That one determines who comes in first in that Champions League group.
Agree.
I think that's a huge swing there. So Salernitana, annoying a team at home. We'll see how that happens. But, brother, this was a great conversation once again prior to this match. I've had everything linked underneath with at Nick Diani on your personal Twitter, and then Kicks Picks Pod that you guys notoriously do so well with. You've had a good start to the season, so just give everybody the information on all that stuff. YouTube channel as well, and if you haven't seen the Serie A betting preview, everything will be in there as well if you just want to go back and listen to some of the stuff and see how Nick and I were kind of dead on already. We didn't want to be right so soon, but go and plug it.
Rather be right in May, but we're looking good so far. Thank you again for having me on for that. Thank you for having me on all the time. Thank you for coming on our show. Pretty much at the drop of a hat.
Well, Scotty, it's again, it gets funnier and funnier. Scotty, by the way, this is another update with this whole stuff. Scotty is a neighbor of a really close friend of mine. I had no clue. So turns out I know Scotty even better than I thought I did. And that goes for everybody at this point now. And then we have Iona Gales basketball just about a month and a half away or something. So that'll be good news. But be sure to follow Kicks and Picks Pods. Any other top pick that you want to release real quick here, or you just want everybody driving over to
No, those are the ones, man. If you guys have a second, we did preview the Liverpool Spurs match this week. We had a Liverpool guest on, so I mean that to me is the fascinating one in the Premier League.
It is.
But we're putting out weekly shows. A little tough, right? Because we feature the games on Thursday. They're over on a Sunday, so a short window. But we've, as Martino said, we've started to put clips on YouTube. But
that's betting, though. What are you gonna do? Like
if you want
on Tuesday.
Right. If you want the full analysis, we have our podcast. We're breaking down games. We're previewing games. We usually have guests on, I would say at least twice a month. But if you're just looking for the picks, and we've been off to a pretty good start, You could follow that on our YouTube as well with 10, 15-minute clips. So easily digestible, and hopefully it'll give you a little bit of an edge.
Yes. Honestly, not many Serie A betting podcasts out there. That's probably the only one that I could think of. I don't know many other, unless you read my work for The Athletic. I can't. There's other people. Angelo Zara is a great person as well.
Yes.
He's been on the channel previewing that. He was dead on about Roma. Talk about a guy that's just self-aware about his own club. Yes. That's Angelo for sure. Maybe a little too harsh sometimes, but that comes with the territory. Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I'm the same way. You don't have to tell me. But yeah, love the preview, guys. Like, subscribe, comment on this YouTube video if you have not already. Give us your thoughts and Lazio predictions for this weekend. Again, follow Nick on social media if you have not already. And if you're on YouTube right now, go and click the link to go and follow them at Kicks Picks Pods. I understand if you don't love betting, if that's not really kind of in your realm of values and stuff like that, that's okay. We could just, agree to disagree on that type of stuff. I've gotten some comments before that are kind of just, over the line. We don't judge. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. But I don't think you should judge us in return for what we do. It's our lives. Just want to say that to keep it in a healthy comment section. But the 99% of you guys are incredible, and I genuinely appreciate that. Nick appreciates that with Scotty and Steve as well, and all their guests that they have on there. So be sure to check that out, and hopefully it's an exciting weekend for matches. Hopefully we get Santangelo back next week. We're going to be talking to John Solano as well on a couple of other things. But Nick, appreciate you, brother. Any final words before I close out here?
That'll do it, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. Good luck this weekend. And
good luck to you.
We'll see you next week.
See you guys.